And good afternoon. We are back. It is 1:30. And you are on PBA FM 89.7 with me, Sophia, on Manic Mondays. Now, I told you earlier that I have some special guests in the studio with me, and you are called Ghost Recon Down Under.
Correct. We are.
Okay. And we have Jamie.
Yes, that's me.
And, hang on a minute. Let me turn you guys on. There we go. Oh, that sounded good then. Yes, we have Jamie and Jason.
Yep.
And Mark.
Yes.
Now, one of you is a bit of a skeptic.
I am.
Okay, and Jason is a pagan
Yes.
practicing white witch.
That's me, yes.
You. And you are a reporter, Mark?
Yes, I am.
And a skilled magician.
Yes.
So do you find the magician has anything to do with what you're doing now?
It personally not for me.
No.
But it does give us a bit of a background on how tricks are done. So we can look at things
I
and we
guess,
can
yes,
see
of course.
certain things that
Yep.
others might not actually see.
Yeah. So it's fascinating, isn't it? So, look, tell us a little bit about each investigator and your roles within the what you do.
Absolutely. For myself, I'm the producer. I've got a bit of spiritual background, so I do identify as pagan. So I do believe in spirituality. I do believe that there is an afterlife. I do believe that a lot of things can be faked, though, as well.
Yes,
So my
yes.
background is I've studied psychology. I'm a master's qualified counsellor and therapist.
Wow.
So I do understand that we can be influenced by a lot of things as well. So that's kind of my background in the team. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, as you said before, I was the reporter. So my main role is to sort of document everything as we go through the night. So we walk into a room, we have a cup in a certain area. If we walk back into that room later after hearing a bang and the cup is on the floor in another way, we've got like a written record of something actually happened, so we know that something may have happened during that time. That's pretty much my role. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and my role is, I think there's always room for a skeptic.
Yes.
In
that's
most
true.
places.
So true.
Unfortunately, in this case, I'm going to be that guy. I've got like I said, I grew up with a spiritual background and having Indigenous culture to draw on. I've seen experienced a lot of paranormal, but not so much in the ghost field.
Yeah.
And having the background as a magician, like Mark said, if someone's taking us in somewhere to try and hoax us, we've got a better idea of how they might have gone about it. We can
Yeah.
replicate it and we can probably do it better.
Yeah. Well, that's true, isn't it? Somebody could really take you somewhere and just it could be a big hoax, and you
Yeah.
really want to know, you want to know that is a hoax and
Yeah.
that someone's just having you on, rather
Yeah.
than it being something real that you've just actually discovered. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're not setting out to debunk anyone.
Yeah.
It's really, we all agreed that we're looking for strong, credible evidence as best that we can do
Yes.
to prove there are ghosts, to experience them for myself personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we're going out to places where people say, come and look at my house, it's haunted, and they've got things set up with strings, we're going to find it out and then go, you have no ghosts.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And there is one fourth member as well, which is Scott.
Yes,
and he's
that's right.
got an important job as well. He's the location scout, so he's in
Yes.
charge of finding all the sites
Yeah.
as well.
Yes.
So if anyone's messaging us on Facebook about sites, he's usually the person that's talking to you.
Righto.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so we've all got crucial parts.
Yes, and we do have a few sites in South Australia, don't we, guys?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we are one of the most haunted states in Adelaide,
Yeah,
in Australia.
Yeah.
And we've got the highest murders per capita.
Yes.
Serial killers per capita.
Serial
Yeah.
killers per capita.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, they both kind of go hand in hand, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
True. No, all right. Now, look, as you sort of you're just getting yourselves together with this Ghost Recon team, aren't you? So you're sort of starting out. But have you had any experiences yourself, of the untoward?
We've got a few things.
Yeah.
Which have been interesting. We're still obviously starting out, investigating a lot of things and going through a lot of our footage and EVPs that we have.
Yeah.
But we have caught a couple of interesting.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
We've had like whispers and things
Yes.
like that we can't quite explain.
Yeah, we try very hard
Yeah.
to find a logical explanation for it.
Yeah.
When we can't, then we'll kind of put it in the undecided basket until there's more evidence to kind of support that. That's why we have a checklist of criteria.
Yeah.
But there's certainly been the nut that got thrown
Yeah.
at the Star Theatre. That was an
Okay.
interesting one. This everyone was grouped together.
Mhm.
I was able to see everyone in view, and a nut got thrown at Jason.
Wow.
Mm.
Still
Yeah,
not
and you're
sure
still-
where it came from. We're
Yeah.
still kind of debating that one,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
so far that's been
Yeah, that's been the most substantial.
Yeah.
yeah.
And we've had knock-in as well at that
Yeah,
same
the
site
knocking.
in the change
Mhm.
room. We had
Okay. Yeah.
on the door, and that
Yep.
was actually able to be done on command twice.
Yeah.
So we
Wow.
actually asked if there's anything,
Yeah.
if there's any spirits present, can you
Mhm.
knock on the door? It was 3 distinct taps.
Yep.
We went,
Yeah.
okay, if that was you, can you do it again? And it was the exact same 3 taps.
Yeah.
So that was something that was quite
Mm.
hard to
Yeah. Ignore.
throw away
Yeah.
and go, okay, that could be explained, especially when we were the only 4 people plus our camera crew
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And we did catch that on
Yeah.
camera, thankfully.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you
that's-
can only have cameras going when you're there for so long
Yes.
throughout the whole night.
Yeah.
You're looking at 6-7 hours,
Yeah.
sometimes
oh,
more.
Yes.
There's going to be times when your camera's not running. So
Yes,
that's
yeah.
always a bit of a risk of kind of like, oh no, we're changing
And
batteries.
that's when most
Yeah,
things are going to happen.
Yeah,
That's-
well,
yeah.
yeah. And they know
Murphy's
that. You
Law.
see, they're smart.
Yeah, they are. They're smart ghosts. Yeah.
And what about all your equipment now? What do you actually use?
Well, it was funny because when we started out, we kind of pulled together a lot and went, wow, we actually have more than we had thought. We've tried to steer away from for now, just from the stereotypical ghost
Mm-hmm.
hunter pack that
Mhm.
you'd find a lot of people using.
Yep.
Just because we want to capture it on reliable equipment, ordinary equipment.
Yep.
Because then there's no chance that it was handmade and dodgy.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can, if a place is haunted, it's haunted all the time.
Mm.
If we're going to catch something, then you should be able to catch it on a regular camera, a regular field recorder,
Yeah, true.
with a regular light source. We are going to start employing some other things down the track. I
Yeah.
think.
Yes.
Once we can, once we've got a bit more solid direction that we're already moving in,
Yeah.
we'll be happy to add those in. But for now, it's just what we've got is
Yeah.
handheld cameras, video cameras, our phones,
Mm-hmm.
Voice recorders.
voice recorders,
Yeah.
field recorders, and what's those things? GoPro.
GoPros.
Oh, the
yeah.
GoPros, yeah. What are these EVP things, or have I been watching too much TV?
No, yeah. So that's an electronic voice phenomenon.
Okay.
So that's a voice or a sound that you can't quite explain with other
Okay.
means. So
Yep.
perfect example would be if you catch a whisper or something in a room where you've got a voice recorder set up and there's no one else in that room at that time.
Yeah.
We've caught a couple interesting things. We're not quite convinced enough to say that they're 100% paranormal.
Yeah.
We're convinced enough to say that we couldn't explain it, but we went back to
Yeah.
try and we do try to go back
Mm.
and actually look
Yep.
into them and go, okay, let's see if we can replicate that sound.
Mm.
Again, there was one at the Star Theatre in the
Yeah.
bio box that we
Yep.
tried to replicate. We had an idea of what it might have been, but
Mhm.
then when we tried to replicate that sound, we couldn't.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it sounded just like a kind of creepy whisperer
Yeah.
effect, and we couldn't replicate that. So
Mm.
again, that's not something we'd say 100% is paranormal,
Yeah.
but it was interesting, and we
Mm.
couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
So that's what an EVP is. Obviously,
Yep.
you hear some on some of these other programs. It's a recognizable voice
Yeah.
answering a question during a question answer session, which we
Mhm.
do employ sometimes as well.
Mm.
So we call that an EVP session, where we might have a voice recorder in a room
Mm.
like this,
Yep.
and there's no one else in the room, and we just go around the table and ask questions of, is there any spirits present? And then you be quiet for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
and then you move on to the next question. And then when you listen back to it, sometimes that voice recorder picks up things that your everyday ear hasn't picked up.
Mm.
And that's something interesting, especially if
Mm.
you catch that on your phone
Yes.
and just a normal voice recorder.
Yeah.
And when we are doing that, we try to double up and have 2 recorders going at the same time.
Yeah.
So if we do catch something, we can listen to that same point on the multiple systems that we've caught it on. And if it's on both systems, we can kind of go, okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
There's something to corroborate it.
Yeah, because our phones are quite sensitive. You know, the phones now are very, very sensitive, you know, so they're
They're really
pretty
good
darn good, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah,
They are
absolutely.
really good at picking things up.
Yeah.
And I've got a background in sound engineering. So
Okay.
I'm the person who sits there and
Yeah.
listens to everything.
Okay.
Then goes, how would I have reproduced that sound? Or
Yeah.
what could it be? What's the
Yeah.
closest source for that?
Yeah.
And then I can present it with the guys and go, now what do you hear?
Yeah.
Mm.
That must be fascinating. I mean, and not to mention hours and hours of going through listening to
Yeah.
you know,
That not so
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
we all break off into our own
Yeah.
offices and do
Yeah,
our own,
yeah.
because we obviously all have our own footage
That's
from our
right,
GoPros
that's
and our
right.
own recorders.
Yeah.
So you're looking at an 8-9 hour investigation,
Exactly.
and then you've got probably a week to go through all the data that you've
Yeah.
collected
That's
throughout that
right.
night. Because we
That's
also
it.
set up ongoing cameras So in corridors and that kind of stuff, we've got cameras that are just going throughout the whole night. So you can imagine sat there watching a blank screen, just going scene by scene, and then listening as well to see if you've caught anything. It's, It's you got to and you got to be aware of fatigue as well in that kind of thing, because we want to go through the evidence as much as possible. So we try not to rush anything.
Yes.
And we try to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, if you know what I mean. And
Well, that's it, isn't it? You know. Yeah, it's time consuming, but you have to do, if that's what you want. You have to go through it and do it, don't you?
As an example, I had to sit through. I think you were there with me when we went through the start there. It was 2.5 hours of footage from the floor in front of a stage, looking at seating.
3.5.
Yeah.
That's 3.5.
3.5.
We literally had to sit there the whole time. And watch in case there was anything.
Because obviously you'd heard perhaps had you heard something that might be there. That's why you're there in the first place, or
well, the Star Theatre's got a very long history. Like, it's been there for quite a while, but there's a long history of paranormal activity in there. I mean, Jason's probably the better one to go into it because he spent more time there.
Yeah, so like way back when it was originally a film, like a cinema.
Oh yes,
back when that was very, very popular when it first opened. That's originally what it was built for. And then when people started to get TVs in their the lounge rooms and that kind of thing, the guy that ran it started to go out of business, and he actually hung himself in the bio box. That was
yes, I did hear that.
Yeah, so he was apparently a pretty bad spirit that they had there for a while, and they actually had to get an exorcist to come in and get rid of the spirit because they were having a lot of weird things happening. Since then, they've had a lot of people report seeing an old lady in the theatre, and that's been a report that's been repeated by multiple different people, which is quite interesting. People that don't even know each other, which is, when you get stories like that, it's quite interesting.
Yes.
If you've got just random stories coming up here and there, you kind of go, oh, well, that's interesting, but it's kind of hard to... It's pretty easy to debunk because you kind of go...
that's right, but when you've got numerous people saying the same thing...
old lady in the theatre, same corner.
That's right.
It's like, okay, that's actually quite... interesting.
Yeah, that's something that you really need to look into then.
And the sound techs there as well have reported like hearing voices and weird stuff. And myself and Scott, we've performed there as magicians on a couple of occasions, and we have had interesting things happen. Once during a Halloween show, we had a audience member come up on stage, and they actually walked off stage because they reckoned they saw an old lady in the back for a split second, and she disappeared, and she freaked out, and she actually left the theatre. And also with the knock-in on the change room door, we had an experience, well, Scott had an experience of that as well. He thought it was me knocking on the door to get him for the show. And I was actually out on the stage setting stuff up, and he came out and went, "Was that you?" And I'm like, "Was that me? What?" So it's definitely one of the most interesting sites we've been at so far.
Yeah, we've got a small scoring system for ourselves, and that scored pretty high. And thank you to Malcolm Haslett for letting us into the Star Theatre. It was nice of him to give us an overnighter there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And that's the hard part, because obviously you're not talking about getting let into a venue just for a couple of hours. It's usually overnight, and it's unsupervised usually. So we really appreciate all the venue owners that let us do that.
Absolutely, like it's a big amount of trust for like these four random guys. What are you magicians? What's going to be what's going to disappear overnight when we come back to unlock, sort of thing. So.
Especially when you're looking at pubs as well. It's like, hang on.
Well, that's it. We do have a lot of pubs here too. You know, a lot of very, very old pubs. You know, so
and a lot of them were actually used as, particularly around Port Adelaide and that kind of thing.
That's right.
A lot of them were used as morgues, temporary morgues as well,
and brothels.
And brothels. Well, there you go. Yeah, so, and when you find out the background of the history of the actual place, it makes sense, sort of, doesn't it? You know, it's like, oh wow, look, I never knew that, but and it's quite fascinating. Adelaide's,
Adelaide has some hidden amazing things. I mean, there's tunnels. There's the reports of the tunnels in Port Adelaide. A lot of the old heritage buildings in the city and around the city are also used to be child homes, and there's a lot of haunting associated with that as well. I went to a building in Wakefield Street when I was younger doing TAFE studies, and when a younger always want to find out about ghosts. Stay back, talk to the cleaners. Everyone had a story about this place, and it used to be an old orphanage. It was. There were some creepy stories, which I'd love to go do it because it's a hotel now. It's literally be a haunted hotel.
And I think hospitals too might be a good place to. Because there's always, it's just one of those parts, part of life, isn't it? But it's. I think there's quite a lot that would be happening at hospitals. Are there any that you have in mind that you wanted to At the Queen Elizabeth.
I'd possibly like to go to the Flinders. I have an ex that worked there as a cleaner, and she actually did experience a full body apparition.
Yeah, wow.
Walk down the hallway and turn into a wall.
Yeah, wow.
So that's still something to kind of follow up later down the track.
Yep.
But I mean, it's like something like that, getting access into
that's
an
part.
investigation is.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Because it's not just something that you can walk into and say, "Hey, I'm going to set up a camera here for X amount of hours," and
hey, we're going to come in and you're going to leave us alone all night, unsupervised.
Yeah, that's right.
We've got a few big locations that we would love to do, but it's just not practical because you're not going to get allowed to go in. I would personally love to do Z-Ward. Z-Ward's a really interesting one as well. Yeah. Adelaide Jail would be cool to do, but we are trying to avoid the places that have been done to death.
Yeah, I've been to the Adelaide. I've been to the old Adelaide Jail, and I went there for a concert. But it was the very first time I'd actually been into that old jail, and I have to say, when I walked into the place, and it's very freaky, and you think about the past, and you think about people that had been there in the past, and you know that the place is haunted. It just stands, well, I believe it is. And, it's just like, and when you get in there, I have weird feelings of people being around there and stuff. It's just, it's really crazy, even though, and as soon as I stepped into that building, it's just really strange. There's just the feelings that I had. It's just really amazing.
Was that where you went with Jamie?
I've been to Z-Ward and Adelaide Jail on a couple of tours before I joined the group.
Yeah.
We had some rather unique experiences in there as well. We had 2 cameras in one particular cell. Yeah. Both malfunctioned and didn't take photos, and the microphone on top of the camera didn't record anything. Yeah. So for 2 separate cameras for 2 different people going off, that was a bit of an interesting experience.
Yeah. But then you don't catch anything. It's like, how do you...
How do you corroborate what your story?
Yeah, that's right. So, it's very strange indeed. And because how long has that been closed now for the old Adelaide Jail? It's been closed for a
while.
Yeah, quite a long time now, hasn't it? Because I actually knew someone that was a prisoner in there many years ago.
Yeah, okay.
But there you go. And he's passed away.
Okay.
So,
there? Did he probably? Was it there? Or?
No, it wasn't there. So, but, all right, so, and where else have you been? Anywhere else yet? Because I know you're young and starting out.
So like, you've got to obviously prior to the Ghost Recon Down Under project, we've all done private investigations on our own and that kind of thing. Like I've been to Taylor Town, Z-Ward, Adelaide Jail. My house I've had a few experiences with as well. Yeah. The old cemetery. As a team, we've done a few pubs. Yep. So we did the Avoca.
Oh, the Avoca,
however you want to pronounce it.
Yes.
That was quite interesting. Has an interesting history again.
Yes.
It was used as a morgue. It was a brothel.
Yeah. Yes.
They've had people die out the front on the curb. They've had
a horse or a camel?
A camel?
Yeah,
a camel died.
Wow.
So whether a spirit of an animal can haunt a place, you never know. It was one of the more... It was probably one of our earlier investigations, so we were kind of finding our feet working together. Yeah. There was a few uncomfortable feelings, but we didn't actually catch too much that we would say was everything we caught. We could kind of explain away.
Well, that's
Yeah, it was, and again, it's one of those things. A lot of the uncomfortable feelings we kind of put back down to what we'd been told about the place and auto-suggestion, because...
Does it make you feel better that you can explain it away, or do you like the fact that you can't explain it away?
You can explain
it away and go,
isn't it? I'm disappointed now.
Yeah, that's exactly,
Like you hear a noise and then somebody's, actually that was, like, we've had that happen in an EVP session where we're sat there quietly and then we hear what we think's a growl and it's like, actually, no, that was my stomach. Sorry, guys, I'm hungry. It's like, okay. Or like, things like that you do. Where, like, we obviously want to catch things and we want to find something that's interesting that we can report back. Yeah. But we also don't want to fake that. And we also want to, if we can explain it away, we try to explain it away. Because anything that we say is unusual, it's because we went through every other option and gone, there's no explanation that we can think of. And moving forward, we're also going to look at getting other professionals involved. So other people that know about sound, other people that know about lighting or camera flares and that kind of stuff. So if we ever do catch something that we think is like, I don't know, a full body apparition in a photo, we'll then go to photography experts and go, hey, could you replicate this? And could you explain that with like a lens flare? So if we do ever catch anything like that, we want our audience to know that we have gone above and beyond to try and debunk it.
That's right.
Not to disprove it, but just to kind of make sure that it is something that
we
is unusual.
Checked every possible avenue for it first. I mean, there's two important things that Jason mentioned just then. One is the auto suggestion, which a lot of people don't take into consideration. Is I think I said to you earlier, someone tells you that a place is haunted, they've already planted that seed in your head.
Yeah.
And the moment you go in there, regardless of how skeptical you are, it's like when people say, "Don't think of an elephant." It's the first thing you think of.
Yeah,
it's
that's
an
right.
elephant.
Yeah.
So we're trying to disengage ourselves from that. So when we go in, we find out a little bit about a place, but don't give us too much information. Let us go in and see how we feel first, and then we can kind of compare that to what we would have if we had already known beforehand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other one is I guess in terms of hoaxing, people reading our bio going, they're all magicians, they're all tricky.
Yeah, well that's
is having people know that we're not. Again, we're not going out to debunk people, but at the same time, we're not going out to fool people either.
That's right. That's right.
Because if we rigged stuff up, we'd be really good at it.
Yeah.
Honestly. But the moment we got caught, nothing else is credible after that.
Well, that's right.
And
You're
we're not
going,
out, we're not out to trick ourselves.
That's right. You're going out there to prove something
Correct.
that's that is real. That we a lot of us think is real.
Yes.
So why would you want to do that to yourself?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And if there is past reports as well, as magicians, we do go in at the very first thing we do prior to setting up like test conditions and that kind of thing is we look at past experiences.
Yeah.
And we'll go to those places first and kind of go, okay, could we replicate that? And what could be an explanation? Oh, the person reports feeling chills in this room. Oh, well, look, there's an old window that's not sealed properly.
Yeah, that's right.
Or like things like that.
Yeah,
we try to debunk first before we go in.
Yeah.
Or try and replicate it as well. So if they report something, we go, okay, how could you replicate that door shutting on its own?
Yeah.
Could we do it? And then,
yes, that's right.
And we're going to show that to the people that watch our show.
Yeah, that's
and go,
great.
Look, this is how we could replicate it with
right.
the skills that we've got.
That's right.
So whether it's not disproving it,
and I think that makes it even more fascinating that you're actually showing that that's what you could do this, but and then it could end up that hey, you can't replicate that at all.
Yeah.
So
well, that's strong evidence.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Evidence.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it?
I guess personally for me as well, I've watched a lot of the investigation things on YouTube and Netflix and the rest of it.
Yes.
And it's clear that some of those are hoaxed. And I go, if you just put a little bit more thought into that would look really good.
Yeah. Well, and you being the magician, I mean, you'd probably notice that even more than just the average person like me, for instance.
It really sticks out.
Yeah. So, but it's strange, isn't it? So, what are the first signs if somebody rings you up and says, "Can you come to my house? I think there's something here," and you go in. What do you look for? What's the first thing that you think?
From the moment they contact us, the first thing we like to know is a bit of the history. So that's one of our actual criteria. Is the first thing because we've got a five-point checklist.
Yes.
So for a place to be considered the most haunted, it would be 5 out of 5. So that's the highest score that a site would get. Obviously, the criteria is a bit more detailed. We explain it a lot more in the shows, but the first checkpoint is the history and past experiences. So if somebody contacts us and says, "Hey, look, there's been a death in this place, and the death was a young child, and now there's reports of children's voices being heard," and that then is quite interesting. That starts to tick that first box.
Yes.
We then, as for the actual investigation itself, the next step would be us, first of all, going in, as I said, as we said, like trying to debunk it, but not calling the person a liar or anything like that, but just trying to find other explanations.
That's
like
right.
creaky floorboards, for instance. I hear footsteps. Okay, well, it's old floorboards. When last have they been looked at? Oh, they're 100-year-old. Okay, well, they could creak and expand.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got old pipe work in my basement. Okay, that's another thing. Termites, rats.
Yep.
Like you hear a rat or a mouse in your walls, it sounds creepy.
Oh, it does.
So,
I know experience.
So that's kind of the first thing that we do in our initial investigation criteria that we go through. From there, we have a whole range of different test conditions. Jamie can tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is where Mark's job is so important, is being able to, as well as we can, record everything in a room. So when something changes, one thing changes, we can go back and go, who went in the room? Did anyone touch anything when you went in the room? So any conditions that change, we can certainly make sure that nothing, like doors. Doors are a good one. Doors open and close by themselves. Doors open and close when people touch them.
Yeah, true.
So we've got to record the condition of the door,
Yep.
make sure that it's all written down, checked off before we actually do an investigation. So in the interim, if we have gone out, had our meeting, got ready for this investigation, come back, a door's open, we know that none of us has touched that door.
Yep.
Was there any outside influences? And there's chances no, because it's just going to be us in there.
Yeah. And what happens though before, when you go to someone's place? Say, do they just give you carte blanche to say, here's my house?
Well,
you set your, because I need to know.
It's certainly at the discretion of the people that want us to do houses. We haven't. We've got 3 houses so far that are a possibility, but it comes up to the person wanting us to have us in there, because it's not just the 4 of us. We've also got our production team with us. And it's whoever is comfortable with us going in, spending a few hours. Something might, if they can only give us a 4-hour window, something might happen that 4 hours.
That's right.
There might be something there, but we didn't catch it, so we
that's
can't kind of go, okay, it's so it's being able to talk to the person, saying how much time can you afford us, and what would you like the outcome to be at the end of this.
Yeah.
So
I suppose people would just say, look, I really need to know if something is there that's, not right. So
obviously an ideal situation is somebody to go, hey, look, I trust you. I'm going to rent a hotel room for a night, and you can have the keys, and I'll be back in the morning.
Yeah.
Or if it's a property such as a pub or something, they leave, because obviously they've all got CCTV cameras as well going, so they can trust us that way as well.
That's right.
But an ideal situation for that would be come in at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Last drinks are served, last meals are served or whatever, and we'll leave it open. Here's the keys to lock up afterwards. That's the best situation, because obviously we can take our time, set everything up properly, because obviously the more time we've got means the more test conditions we can set up and we can actually do it, because we try to do it similar to a forensic investigation. Like that's how detailed we go.
And what happens when, say, you've gone into someone's house and you've done all of this, just say you've proven that there is, say, what do the people expect? Do they expect you to do anything about it, or do they just say thank you and I might move? A
lot of it's the peace of mind of knowing that they're not crazy.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean? Like if we can go in and actually go like, oh, look, actually, there is some weird things happening here.
Yeah.
Like we don't consider, we're not exorcists.
That's
we don't
right.
say that we're going to cleanse your
So
place
you're
of
just
spirits.
there to prove that.
If like from a personal perspective, me being spiritual and my spiritual background, I would, if we did go in and go, I'm like, okay, it's 5 out of 5, and we had interesting experiences, we had voices, we really do feel like there's things here that we can't explain, I would do my own personal, I would suggest this to the person first, but say, look, I can try and talk to the spirit and let them, I don't consider myself to be a medium or a clairvoyant or anything like that, but from people I know who do claim to be mediums and psychics and that kind of thing, that's the best way of dealing with the spirit, is to talk to it like a person. So that would be my recommendation to them. But we're not there to solve somebody's haunted. We're there to find evidence for them.
We're not actually Ghostbusters.
Yeah, we're not. We don't have the vacuum cleaners that light up and suck them.
I'm glad I didn't play. I'm glad I didn't play Ghostbusters then. I thought about it, but I thought, no, I won't do that to you.
Thank you.
But,
it's okay.
But So what's next for you guys? But once you get yourselves up and running, and you're going to be. Is this going to be a full-time thing, or
it's the goal?
Is that what you like?
The goal is. We started off going, hey, this would be a cool idea for YouTube, and then it became kind of, no, actually, this is too good of an idea just for that. Let's do this properly. So going forward, the goal is to have a 12-episode season 1.
Yes.
And we've got a professional film crew and production team now. So we've took the leap of faith and went, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. And at the end of that, it's probably going to take us, to be honest, it takes a while to do all that. So we're probably looking at probably 2 years worth of production. And obviously just the liaison of trying to get the team together on dates that suit all of us. Yeah. Because obviously we all have our own jobs as well that we do.
That's right, yeah.
So at the end of once we've got all those episodes for season 1, we will be looking at pitching it somewhere.
Yeah.
We've got a few ideas in mind, but that's the goal, is to have it
that'd be great too, wouldn't it?
Free to air
then
TV
we can
or
all see
something
it.
like that.
And
Yeah.
That'd be best. Do you think children are more susceptible to, or is that just a myth, really? You know.
I can only tell you my personal belief. I personally say yes, but obviously everyone's different.
Yeah, because I've had experiences when I was young, but not so much when I was older. Oh, but my mum passed away, 3 years or so ago. And I had her number still in my phone, and I hadn't deleted it because I couldn't bring myself to delete it yet. But it was, a few weeks after and everything, and my phone rang, and there was her picture coming up on the thing, and I picked it up, and of course I dropped it, because I was a bit shaken up, and it dropped on the floor, and then the phone just stopped working for a few seconds, and then it just powered itself back up.
Yeah, wow.
And it scared, but I just thought, well, maybe she's trying to tell me something, but it's the little things like that, but but when I was a child more so, So that's very strange, and I thought it was strange.
It's one of those things that's really hard to explain. Like science isn't quite able to explain some of the stuff like that, and that's the interesting part.
That's exactly right. Science isn't, cannot, make everything. It's, it's just so fascinating.
There's in the realm of psychology, there's transpersonal psychology, there's paranormal psych.
That's right.
There's areas of psychology that are trying to explain this stuff.
Yeah,
and they're quite open when you read the reports going, there's some things that we can't explain yet.
Yeah, well, you look at, and that's right, and you look at how old the world actually is, and you can't tell me that there's not anything out there that's, that's not like, I personally think that there is. But as I said to you earlier, before we had a man that worked here, and he's sort of passed away, but we've had, I've read that people have actually seen things in the camera up there, and a little white sort of a thing down the side of the camera, and a little bit unexplainable things to them. So, there's all kinds of buildings can be, haunted.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at some of the more spiritual, especially spiritual churches, the churches are spiritual, but esoteric type ones, where they talk about residual energy, everyone's an energy. It's going, like, everything is energy. Basically, it is still going to have an apparition of that at some point. But for me, when it crosses into anything to do with technology, that's the first thing I question. It's like moving parts or a computer board. Well, that's... You get all kinds of artifacts that come with that, especially with the audio stuff that I do. Just audio artifacts that come with any recording device. Is you have to be able to separate that from what is a live sound, what is actually being captured by the microphone, as opposed to what is actually making that sound within. Could be static, could be anything.
Yeah, well, that's
But that's interesting that you came like. You think about it, you go, where was her phone?
Well,
you got rid of it.
That's right. I did get rid of it.
And there's a good chance anyway you got rid of it, it would have been.
And this was weeks and weeks after. It was, I think,
it'd be dead. The battery would be
dead.
dead.
Then we actually physically got
rid of it. See, so that's what makes it like, that's a bit.
Yeah, but it was just, and I just sort of, and because I had a picture, how your picture comes up.
Well, for the person,
That's right. And so I thought, it was, I didn't know what to think at the beginning. But there you go. But that's what I'm saying, all sorts of strange things. And I had a sister who passed away when she was very young. And I was very young too. And we had strange things happening in our house when we were living at Rosewater, because it was a very old area too down there. And my dad used to work down at the at Port Adelaide and things like that. So we had a few strange things happen in our house after she passed away, after the funeral it was. So but it was very strange indeed, and it's something I have never forgotten to this day, and that was a long time ago. So. It's
funny how those sort of things stick with you as well.
They do. They never leave you.
That was so, I can't really put a finger on what that was, but like a house that my mum and uncles and aunties grew up in, it's close to Torrensville. The same thing. Mum goes, if you could ever get back there, because when she goes, I remember laying in bed, my sister's in it, and we could hear footsteps walking up and down between the beds. No one slept in the front room because there'd always be a pressure on the people's chair, and they never told any of their friends and cousins that used to sleep there. They used to just let them experience it themselves. Like there was no warning, and then they come in the room. Why didn't you tell me?
Like, I don't want to come here anymore.
We have actually had somebody say to us, if a hotel, for instance, lets you come in,
Yeah, well,
like,
that's
is
it.
that positive publicity or is it negative
Yeah.
publicity? It's like, well, it
Yeah.
depends how you
Yeah.
use it afterwards.
Exactly,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. But it was funny because I just spoke to somebody that was that actually works here, and he said to me that they went over to the States and they got a room at one of the most, it was a haunted hotel, one of the most haunted hotels. I think I've forgotten where it was. Might be New Orleans or somewhere like that. And there's one particular room, and lo and behold, got that room. And he said, I was laying there all night with my wife, and we were just like, cameras at the ready, come on, let's come on. But, you know, it was like, no, it was nothing all night. And they're like, oh, gosh, you know. So, but, yeah, I can only imagine. Would you think about going overseas to do any of that sort of thing?
Yeah.
My bag's already packed.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
going to say,
Get a call, go.
if there's any sponsors out there that want to sponsor Ghost Recon Down Under,
will
contact
come.
us.
There you
Like,
go.
we
Yeah.
would love to. Obviously, we start season 1's purely based on Adelaide.
Yep.
We do have ideas for we've got plans for season 2s, 3 to 5
Nice.
through to 12
Yep.
if we can.
Yep.
Nice.
If it takes off what we're hoping.
Yep. But you've got
and
plenty
we
of
would-
places.
Yeah,
You've got plenty.
Australia
Choose from.
Festival has a
Yep.
lot of places
Yep.
throughout Australia that we'd like to explore and branch out to other states.
Yep.
And then obviously overseas would be pretty cool to do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And certainly throughout Australia, that like I've travelled through Australia
Yeah.
since I was about 16.
Yeah.
There's so many other paranormal things
Oh,
besides
yeah, I can
ghosts
imagine.
that are out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've experienced some weird things, seen some weird
Yeah.
things that I couldn't really explain. And you know that plenty of the stories from everyone that you go past has got some sort of weird story
Yeah.
of driving down the highway
Yeah.
and seeing something they can't explain.
And you being the skeptic, you know, you must be starting to rethink perhaps your skepticism.
I guess it's hard to put a finger on because people go, "Wait, you're Christian, so how are you
Yes.
a skeptic?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, I have a spiritual belief, absolutely,
Yeah.
that there's a creator."
Mm-hmm.
But as for when someone comes up and says their house was haunted, it's like, well, let's pull apart all of the actual things that it could have been to make that occur, and when none of them fit, then I'll go, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you've got something I can't explain.
Yep.
It is paranormal because
Yes.
paranormal doesn't mean ghost.
Yes.
Paranormal literally means parallel with the normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, so you're not saying I totally think you're nuts and I'm never going to
no,
ever
no.
believe
I,
that.
look,
Yeah.
I would never accuse any of that,
Yeah.
anyone of
Yeah.
that, because I don't know where they've come from. I don't know what they've experienced.
That's right, and it's true too, isn't it? That if you can't debunk something, well, there is
Yeah.
definitely something to be said about it, isn't there? You know,
So that's kind of what we try to do with. You won't hear us in any of our episodes, I don't think, in the future say this place is haunted, these are ghosts
Yeah.
here. That's not what we would never say that in those words. We
Yeah.
would say we would use the term paranormal, but using the definition that Jamie described, and
Yeah.
we would explain it as, even if we were to catch something that was a full body apparition or a
Yeah.
distinct voice, we would still be saying that's something we can't explain, and it is paranormal in that definition, and we'll leave it to the audience to decide. And that kind of thing.
okay.
And that kind of, we feel that kind of adds to some credibility as well,
Yeah,
because we're
yeah.
not there trying to
Yeah.
claim that.
Yeah, no. It's,
Well, you
it's
seem to
haunted.
have it sussed
Yeah.
out pretty well, you know, so I think it's going to be great.
Well,
And I think it's going to take off really, really well.
Thank you. Yeah, the process we spent a while planning the process of it all.
Yeah,
and
'cause
how
you've
we're
been on
actually gonna
today tonight, and you got a great response from that, didn't
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
The feedback has been overwhelming, to be honest.
you? Yeah.
I never imagined that it was going to be like this, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of sitting back going, okay, I'll strap in and just ride this wave now and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
we'll have to leave it there, guys. It's 10 minutes after 2, listeners, but it's been absolutely fascinating. And, I mean, I could talk about this for hours on end, but I haven't got hours on end to spare. But, look, tell us where people can get in touch with you, so if or how people can follow you. And
Absolutely, yeah. So if you look up Ghost Recon Down Under on Facebook, that's probably the easiest way of contacting us. We've got a Facebook messaging system, obviously. You can message
Yes.
us. We all are the admins for that, so you're most likely going to be talking to one of us. We don't have any chat bots or anything like that.
Yep.
So you'll be talking to us directly.
Yes.
You can also send us an email at ghostrecondownunder@gmail.com.
Yep.
And that's also another avenue that you can contact us through. But Facebook's ideal because we monitor all that. We monitor that pretty quickly.
Yep.
So yeah, so Ghost Recon Down Under on
Yep.
Facebook.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
need any body to like give you a little bit of info first, or did they just
Well,
get in
that's-
touch with you and say, "Hey, I think something," you know?
What we've received recently, like Facebook messaging has been fantastic for it because people sending photos and everything.
Oh, wow.
Recordings and all
Wow.
sorts.
Yeah.
And that's
Awesome.
that's great. That gives us a look at what we're dealing with before we go. Like we've
Ah, nice.
we've had, I won't give too much detail, but someone sent in a picture and, there's a wispy
okay.
smoke.
Yeah.
But there was a coffee
Yeah.
in the corner of the photo. It's
Okay.
like, clearly it's stink.
Yeah.
But look, it's fantastic that people are going to that length. They're sending
Yeah.
us stuff and giving us, saying, you need to come here and take a look. This is what I've experienced. And that's pretty much all we're asking at the moment is
Yep.
what have you experienced?
Yes.
But don't give us
Yeah.
too much. We're happy to.
Yep, come and check it out and
we'll add it
see
to the
what you
list.
think. Yeah, exactly. So, and this is your first radio interview too, so I'm pleased,
yes.
I'm pleased to say. So I got you first, remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
no.
thank you, Sophie. We do appreciate you having us.
We really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, well, look, we'll leave it there, guys, but it's been very interesting indeed, as I've said, and a big thank you to Jamie
Thank you.
and Jason and
Thank you.
Mark. So, and it's, as I say, it's fascinating stuff, and we could talk about it forever. But I'm going to get onto the thing and have a look at all these. We
do.
can have a look at all these
Absolutely.
pictures and that, can we?
We've got
Have you got any other?
I don't
None
think
of-
we've got too much up on the internet just yet.
Oh,
We're
okay,
trying
well, I'll
to keep
wait a while
We
and-
obviously want to try and keep
Yeah.
some of it private for
Okay.
when it actually comes out. We don't want
Okay.
to but we are doing. We've got a teaser episode that we might release. We're
Oh, good.
not
good,
sure
good.
if we're going to release it or not, but we
That-
might.
That's after this guy. He's
Okay,
like the head honcho.
okay. All right,
He steals
okay.
the ship. So
Yep. Oh.
And obviously there'll be photos and stuff that we have, like little teasers that we
Yep.
will post because obviously our fans are
Nice.
there and we want
Yeah,
to give them
yeah,
something
yeah.
in the meantime.
Our fans.
We can't. Yeah, we can't have them wait
Fans,
2
that
years.
sounds weird.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It really is. Oh, look. Okay. All right. Well, I've got to put a song on, and I've got to get back to a normal
it's Ghostbusters.
program. Yeah, no, look, I did actually have it there, but I thought twice. No, I won't.
That's
I'm
all
going to
good.
play a track from OMC called "How Bizarre."
Very
How's that?
nice.
Okay. There we go. Thank you, guys.
No worries at all.